Luca, clearly Tuesday night didn't go the way you all hoped it would go. What went wrong from your perspective?
Look, we knew going into the game it was going to be a tough game. We had the game plan going into it, and I just I don't think we really stuck to it, to be honest. And when you go there, you can't afford to. They're going to create chances themselves. You can't afford to, give up cheap chances. And obviously, on a personal note as well, it's not the way I wanted the game to go. But as a team, you've just got to, look at it today, debrief it, and make sure you're ready to go again the next game.
Is it a case when you make errors, and look, you weren't the only one on Tuesday night, that you kind of just have to stand up and be counted and go again?
Yeah, 100%. I don't know what there's no other option to do. We've got a game on Saturday, and I think that's the benefit of having Saturday, Tuesday for how many weeks we've got. If results go right, if they go wrong, we've got a chance to bounce back and make sure that we can try and create a bit of momentum now.
What do you feel is the key for the team to try and improve the defensive record? Because clearly the lack of clean sheets, the amount of goals you've conceded over a long period is really hurting you.
Yeah, it's not ideal, and we definitely don't go out into games trying to concede as many as we have been. But if I had the answer, I'm sure we would have kept more clean sheets by now, because I would have tried to bring it to the table. But it's hard. We've got to just make sure we work a lot on defensive as well as we do on attacking, and I think we've just got to make sure that every time we go into a game, we're confident that we're not going to concede, and try and stick to that as much as we can.
You've obviously been kind of pivoting at times between 3 at the back and 4 at the back, both within and outside of games. Do you feel like, in terms of the kind of roles and responsibilities, that everybody knows what they're doing, and that's not really a contributing factor to the issues you're having?
Yeah, I don't think that's a contribution. It's we work so hard through the week on how we're going to play, the formations we're going to play, where we're going to try and exploit the opposition, and where we're going to try and be solid. And sometimes when you go into games, you go through these periods, and we've just got a massive busy period coming up now, and we'll be working hard on making sure that we can try and stop as many going in the goal, but putting as many as we can in the oppositions.
You must have felt like you've run over a few black cats at the start of this year, Luca, with the red card, missing a few games. The game in the week, is this one of the more frustrating kind of periods that you've had in your career?
Yeah, it's definitely not ideal. It's not how I wanted, the year to start. But again, in football, it happens. It's a silly mistake, and you've got to pay the price for it. And then, obviously, Tuesday night, sorry, I'm buzzing to be back. And it's football. You make a couple of mistakes, and I'll be ready to go again Saturday. It's not an issue.
Yeah, in terms of yourself, Connor talked this morning about the role of the captain and the kind of extra scrutiny that may bring with it. Is that something that you kind of think about, and the kind of extra responsibility that you have now in terms of what's to come?
No, I know there's a lot of responsibility, when you wear the armband and you're in that changing room at such a big club, and you're going to come under scrutiny. You're going to come under scrutiny at any club, and I'd like to think that my skin's thick enough to be able to take it and just crack on and make sure that as long as that changing room's right, then I've done my job.
Do you understand why supporters are a little frustrated at the minute? Because I look at some decent results towards the start of the year, but compared to previous seasons, you're not where you'd hope to be, are you?
No, definitely not. And the fans have got, as they can moan as much as they want. Their opinion is their opinion, and they've got the right to have one. Sorry, they pay all the money to come and watch us, and look, we don't want to put on performances like we did on Tuesday night. It's not what we go out there to do, and I don't want the fans to come across as if it's just like, oh, it's another game, because we care that we haven't just won that game. But if we care that much about that game, then we're going to not focus on Saturday enough. And I'm sure they want us to switch off from Tuesday night to make sure we're ready to go on Saturday now.
How have the new lads been settling in? Clearly, you've got 3 or 4 that have joined this month. Have they added, do you feel, to the group?
Yeah, definitely. You've seen Owen save on Saturday. It was, I know, there's nothing he can do about the 4 goals. That's not on him, but the save that he made, it's a massive impact. And the new lads that have come in, waiting to get the chances and making sure that they're ready to go when they do get the chance. And I'm sure it won't be long with the busy period we've got coming.
In terms of the players kind of in and around in midfield, how impressed have you been with the other lads this season? I know we spoke about it at other times, but Kelly and Bland and Jorgen Nathan in particular in the middle of the park seem to have really taken a next step in their careers.
Yeah, definitely. And they've when they've been called upon, they've produced and they've been good this year. There's no hiding away from that. They've been brilliant, and it's nice to be able to play next to them. And I enjoy playing the way we are playing in possession and stuff. It's been good. And yet, it's credit to them that you've got to make sure they keep doing it now over the busy period and just making sure that they keep cracking on.
Important few days, isn't it, right now, both on and off the pitch with the window, with the 2 home games to try and set the right tone, isn't it, for the rest of the season?
Yeah, that's right. The window's out of our hands as players. We've just got to let whatever happens and, react on top of that. So, yeah, we're just focusing on the 2 big games next at home, and hopefully we can get 6 points and we can build some momentum now, as I said, in this busy few weeks.
And I know you've got games in hand, which clearly means it's quite difficult to assess where Barnsley really are at this season at the minute. But what do you feel's realistic with the group of players that you've got and how the season's gone so far?
Yeah, I know we're definitely not in a position that we want to be, or the position the club wants to be, but as players, we want to be pushing for as high as we can. We're going to push for the playoffs, and we're going to see if we can get a run going now over these busy few weeks. Obviously, we've got the games in hand, but, you take the points over games in hand, but, we've got to just make sure we perform now, get as many wins as we can, and, come in March time, we'll see where we are and give it a good right go.
Just finally from me, Luke, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on how the head coach is doing. Look, it's his first full season in the business. He's clearly somebody that cares a lot about the club, that played before. What's it been like working under Connor, and how do you feel he's kind of doing in his role?
I think it's hard to say when we're in the position that you're at in the league, but I feel like we've been, it's tough. You don't want anyone, I'm not trying to make anyone feel sorry for the gaffer, feel sorry for us, nothing like that. But I think it's been, tight this season. Some games have gone the way they shouldn't have. We should have got more out of certain games. And as I've said before in the interviews, if there's one thing the gaffer does is, he shows us what hard work is. He's in first every morning. He leaves last. He doesn't leave a stone unturned. He makes sure that when we're going onto the pitch, we know exactly what we're doing, how we're playing, and look, he can't play. He stood on the sideline, you know what I mean? So it's also down to us. We have to take responsibility for where we are, and we get given the game plans and stuff, and sometimes they'll work, sometimes they won't. But as players, you've got to take the responsibility, take it on your shoulders, and make sure we're the ones getting the results.
I do feel he's been a real help for you, given mind he was a captain at the club. He played your position. There's a lot of kind of similarities between yourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'd like to think that the gaffer would admit that, I go and speak to him quite a lot. He pulls me for chats and stuff, sees where I am and stuff. And, sometimes it's not always like a player and coach sort of chat. It's more on another level where I can ask him certain things that sometimes you wouldn't ask other gaffers, or bounce certain things off him that you wouldn't bounce off certain gaffers. So, yeah, it's been a massive, help for me and stuff, learning off the gaffer. And, I think, as you said, Vermal, PK, Blandy, also young in midfield. It's massive for them as well.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Hey, Luca. Yeah, I mean, after the game, obviously, it didn't go personally the way you wanted to. Do you just find it quite easy just to switch straight onto the next one, or was it quite a tough one?
Yeah, I know. I know my age is probably not that mature still. I'm still quite young, but I've played enough games now, and especially at this club, I know the scrutiny you're going to come under, but you have to be able to bounce back if you want to go out there in front of all the fans that we're going to have on Saturday. If you're still thinking about Tuesday night, it'll probably go the way Tuesday night went. So you've got to switch off, Thursday, Friday, tough training, and then make sure you're ready to go.
And obviously it is the way Barnsley want to play, playing that sort of passing that opens up the opposition, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Do you think for yourself, maybe not playing for a while, there was a bit of, that was maybe a factor that you hadn't played for a few weeks, maybe why some of those passes went astray?
No, I'm not going to blame that, to be honest. It's not. If anything, if it when I couldn't run back or I couldn't get in, it was down to a little bit of fitness, I'd understand. But no, it was just, a couple of poor moments of quality on the ball, and I'm not going to take the ball on Saturday because of that. I'm going to forget about it and make sure, as I say, I put it right on Saturday.
Obviously, red cards do happen to most players in careers. Are just really unlucky for you, I suppose, that Liverpool away and leading the team out of Anfield was one that you missed. That must have been a tough one.
Yeah, definitely. When I had so many family members coming and, family members flying over from Ireland and, travelling all over the country, it was definitely not ideal when I had to ring them and explain the situation and stuff. But as you say, it's football and it happens and got to move on from it.
Must have been pretty proud with the way they played that night, the players.
Yeah, we were there, we watched it. Obviously, Josh was injured as well, so I was sat with Josh and we were watching it. And, it's almost like you're almost like a fan for 90 minutes, do you know what I mean? Cheering on. Obviously, when you're at the post early, me and Josh are looking at each other like, come on, we just need one to go in. And then, the lads stuck in. And as you say, when you're playing against teams at that level at a moment of quality, it's tough, isn't it?
Moving forward, obviously Stevenage doing well, just on the brink of the playoffs. I mean, what do you make of them as opposition? They always seem to be a really tough physical opponent to play against.
Yeah, 100% every season. You know what you're coming up against when you play Stevenage at home or away. You know how they're going to play, and you've just got to make sure that we will be prepared for it. But come Saturday, you need to be sure that you're ready going into the game, that you know what you're ready for.
Obviously, transfer deadline day coming up. Not going to ask you specifically about it, but people like Reyes Cleary, young lad, lots of speculation around. You've been there in the past as captain. Do you sort of just make sure he sort of keeps his head in the game kind of thing? Is that part of your role?
Yeah, that's it. I think, Ray and whoever else has been mentioned, we've got a very level-headed changing room, so we'll be all prepared, ready to go Saturday. If they don't play or if whatever happens, then, the next person will be ready to play. And I think that's the mentality the gaffer's pushing in the team. And, I'll be echoing that message to just whoever plays will be ready to go. And, we'll see whatever happens.
And lastly, I think you recently played your 150th game for Barnsley. I mean, that's a lot of matches in this day and age where people sort of move clubs a lot. I mean, it's a good milestone to get to, and you must feel pretty comfortable there after all these years.
Yeah, 100%. I'm comfortable. And, most of all, I'm proud to play 150 games for this club because, as I say, I know the scrutiny you come under, but we've had a lot of highs and lows, and I've had a lot of memories with these fans, and hopefully we can make some more.
Great stuff. Thanks, Luca.
Cheers.
Hi. So, can I just ask you, just to give us a bit of an insight? You've obviously been in the position of being a footballer in a transfer window when other people are sort of speculating about your future, and particularly the first time you go through it. How is that to sort of deal with?
As I say, I think, a lot of things get mentioned when you're footballers. If you play bad, if you've played well, it's a lot about bouncing it back on other people's opinions or what people are getting said. And I know it's such a cliche thing to say, but there's until, the paper's signed on that dotted line, there's nothing you can do. You have to just make sure that you're coming out, training every day, playing every day, making sure you keep fit for either if you do want to go or if you want to play. And you know what I mean? Just play the best you can in the games and, see what happens.
And have you always been like that, or is that something you've sort of learned with maturity?
Obviously, I think when you're young, there's no hiding from it. You get a little bit carried away with the information. That's normal. There's nothing to shy away from with that. But as you get older, I've been through enough windows where there's been some bids, they haven't been accepted. You don't go, so you don't get your hopes up. You've got to make sure that you're being professional at the club that you're at, playing properly for the club that you're at. And, they're the one paying your wages, so you've got to give you 100% to them. And then when the time changes, the time changes.
And just in terms of, say, dealing with things like that, but also dealing with difficult performances, dealing with really good performances, there's lots of sort of mental challenges. And as Ox referred to, you've got a lot of young players around you at the moment. You're still quite young, but you're the leader of the group. How much of a responsibility, how much do you enjoy sort of passing on your knowledge to help these young guys who are experiencing things for the first time?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, just as everyone says, just stay level-headed. Don't get too high with the highs or too low with the lows. And look, I'm still, I think if you'd ask the lads, they'd say that I'm quite passionate and emotional, up and down as well. So it's lucky that I've got, around me, Didsy, Robbo, Josh, Philo, old Davo, older players that, I can speak to, and they can give me help as well as I'm helping Blandy, V, PK, So as I say, we've got a good mix over the changing room, and, we all try and keep each other level-headed and, pass on little things to each other. And I think that's why it's good. We've got a good changing room in there.
And for the likes of Blandy and V and PK and what have you, is that is their own level-headedness a big reason behind why they've done so well this season.
100%. I don't think, you play, however many 20, 25 games consecutive if you get too high with the highs, because, you can end up, making big mistakes if you're too confident or overconfident. And, if you're not confident at all, then, you're not going to be able to put in the performances they have been doing. So, yeah, I think it's credit to them. It's, credit to where they've been managed, and credit to the changing room that we've all kept them level-headed, and credit to them because, they're staying level-headed and putting the performances in.
And obviously 2 home games now either side of the deadline. How important is it to just come out of that with everyone thinking more about the fan base really than the squad, just feeling really positive about the running to come?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the only thing that we can do when. If players go, if players come, we've got to have a fresh slate after, the 2nd of February when it ends, and just make sure that we're all ready to go head on, as I said before, in a busy period, and make sure that, all together, the fans, the club, the players, the staff, we've all got to be ready to go and make sure that we have a positive impact on the back end of the season.